right, I've got a couple notes here, not a lot, but just some opening comments. First of all, want to congratulate once again UNLV. I think Barry should be the coach of the year, certainly in our league, and I'm going to nominate him for the coach of the year with the AFCA with all he's done with UNLV. That's as good a team as what I've seen flipped around in that short amount of time. That coupled, it was a disappointing loss for us. We dug ourselves a deep, deep hole, and that's hard to come out of, and there's lots of things that contributed to that, but certainly our play was the biggest thing, and their play at the beginning of the game. We did have an opportunity to get back into it. We were not able to sustain a couple key plays there. We got beat by a good team, and as far as injuries, our pride's hurt. We've got to lick our wounds here. We've got a 24-hour rule. We've got a lot of bumps and bruises. It was a physical game, as you saw, but all those players will be able to play this week. Now, they may have some limited practice time as we go in at the beginning of the week because it was probably one of the more physical games that we played, and I knew it would be. So we got beat by, I think, a really good team, and it's also an indication the parity in our conference as well. Moving on to this next week, the Hawaii Rainbows, we've had some battles with them. Coach Chang is a hometown Honolulu guy. I think he went to St. Louis High School. He's a disciple of June Jones, and it's great to see him lead that program. They've installed the run and shoot to the truest form. Shager is, I think, an excellent quarterback. His numbers speak for themselves. He's got one of the top arms in the country, and they've got a great group of receivers, Stables, Ashlock, McBride, and they're passing the ball about 270 yards per game, and they're on a 2-game winning streak, and they beat Air Force. So, like I said, a lot of parity in this league. A lot of people are scrambling around. We're trying to do everything we can to get to 1-0, and we've got a big battle at hand, and we're excited about playing at home. So, questions?
Greg, it seemed like there were quite a few snaps that weren't on target. How bad does that mess things up offensively when the snap?
Well, I think it's always, it's disjointed when you're in the shotgun, and, we talked to Fee about that. He said his hands got sweaty and were slipping, but it's difficult for a quarterback to counter the ball when it's low. I thought Andrew played as gutsy a game as what I've seen him play. It wasn't one of his best games. He's disappointed, but I think a lot of things led into that, being off kilter a little bit. So snaps do come into play, and that hadn't reared its ugly head up until that game. And that was disappointing. I know Fia's disappointing. We got to work on that this week.
Craig, what do you think the legacy of all these seniors will be? Mm-hmm. We've talked about them all year.
Yeah. Every year is different, Ryan. They've been a phenomenal group. I know that I think we have a lot of high-achieving guys for their ability level. And so as a head coach, what you want to do is you want to try to maximize out on the potential you have. I think there have been some games that we have looked really, really good and we've peaked, and then there's been some other games that were disappointing, but you're going to have some of that. I think you're going to see some guys have an opportunity to play in the NFL, but moreover, I think you're going to see some really, really outstanding men that go out into the world and become husbands and fathers and get jobs and be great alumni of the University of Wyoming. And as a head coach, that makes me feel really, really proud that when we introduce them one at a time, there's a special connection that we have with them.
Greg, how important will it be for this secondary to play well against that run and shoot offense?
Well, I think it's really going to be important. And, and then we don't want to minimize the running game, although they lean on the pass more heavily, but that, anytime you get in a run-pass conflict. So I want to address that. But, the back-end guys are going to get challenged. They can throw the ball deep. They can throw the ball short. I mean, I saw Shager one time pull the ball down through a rocket for 55 yards. And so that's going to test us and be a big, big challenge for our guys in the back end.
Greg, I think we're about done with all this COVID extra year stuff. Have you started having conversation with guys who still have eligibility but may not come back?
Yeah, we've talked to some of the guys today, and when I talked to the captains last week as we introduce them. It's their choice if they want to be introduced. They don't have to make a final decision now. Yeah, the roster's starting to distill, though, Cody. We're on the back end of all this. But nonetheless, it's unique, and I know the NFL scouts have had, it's been a challenge for them as well. But I think we've got a pretty good idea. I'm not going to go into it now. There may be a surprise here or there, but I think by and large, what some guys get to the end is saying, you know what, I have another year of eligibility. I've got my degree. I maybe have 2 degrees. Probably not going to play in the NFL. I'm going to start moving on with my life, where before there was no option. And, I think there's some different perspectives now.
Has it also given you the option to, move some guys along as well that maybe you're just ready to move along and maybe move them somewhere
Yeah, as a
else?
head coach, you always have that. Option. And the main thing that I feel, and I understand that we're in a competitive arena, and we want to win every one of our game and win our conference championship. In the midst of all the things that have transpired in college football, you're looking at a head coach that's been here 21 years as a head football coach. And my number one responsibility, I feel, is to make sure a guy graduates with a meaningful degree. And that goes counterculture to everything you're probably hearing and seeing. I'm not going to waver on that. And so from that perspective, if a guy has their degree, then I think we have, maybe I've had some candid conversations with guys saying, you know what, you need to utilize that degree. And most of the guys want to do that. But I want to be clear on this. I'm an old school guy, and I've evolved some, but when we start losing the academic mission and the scholastic model of college football, I think we're misguided.
Craig, I have to ask, 2 guys you respect, Andy Avalos and Brady Hoker, moving on, different circumstances, obviously. Do you plan on being back next year? Do you want an extension, or you plan to retire?
Here's my point, and I've said it all along. I'm in a 1-0 deal. Now, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the future of Cowboy football. Every year at the end of the year, I sit down with my wife and say where we're at and what we're doing. I know we got 14 commitments. I've been out recruiting. So it's not like I'm saying, hey, I'm sacking the bats and let's just puff the pillow. We're working like a steer out there like crazy. And so, my main concern right now, Ryan, is the Hawaiian Rainbows. Yeah, Tracy.
It seems like, and maybe it's not, but you seem to have more preferred walk-ons than a lot of places. Is that in part because you feel you can go into that level easier and bring guys in as opposed to trying to get a force?
Here's what we have within our football team. If you go through that listing, whether it's Wyatt Whelan, who I think is a very good player, Jordan Bertinoli, I can go through the list. So what we do is during this time, we start looking at our recruiting matrix and saying, okay, how many scholarships are we going to allocate at a certain position? You have a baseline, and sometimes you hit that baseline, sometimes you don't. But then what we strive to do is be on the front end and say, okay, we're going to allocate X number of spots for guys that can come into fall camp. And when you use that term preferred walk-on, that's how we determine that. And those spots are pretty valuable. And what they also see is if you go up in that hallway, I think there's, 49 guys or something like that we put on scholarship in my 10 years. And so there's a pattern. And so that helps. And so we take an aggressive approach. And so some of these guys are looking at saying, okay, I can maybe go to XYZ school on a partial scholarship, or I can come here as a preferred walk-on. And I'm not much of a Twitter person, but it was on our Twitter deal. I'm standing on the sidelines, and hugging Marcus Epps. Pretty damn good walk-on there. So that's a good question, Tracy.
Okay, going back to the secondary a little bit, so Isaac White is 4th on the team in tackles. I mean, what kind of jump have you seen him take this ball?
Yeah, I've seen a pretty significant jump, and Jay's done a good job with him. He's a smart player. His dad was a college football coach, a seasoned college football coach. I played at Mullen High School, and then I was in Pennsylvania. Each year we've seen growth out of him, and he's a very good tackler, and he's in the right spot. So that's all elements of being a good safety. And where people may feel like, okay, safeties are guys that play in the back end and defend the post, we do that some, but a lot of times these guys are spun down there to be involved in tackles. So it's not like, okay, you're really bad on defense, your safety's making all those tackles. That's, Epps and Wingert were both good tacklers.
How well does he pair with Wyatt Eckler?
Oh, they're great. It's kind of like yin and yang. They work together and they communicate well together.
As always, the focus this week is going 1-0, and if you do,
That's what we're saying.
yeah, and if you do,
Okay. You have this luxury of having this global picture where we're talking about all these other things, and my dear friends talking about putting me in the senior citizen category. God dang it, man, let's just stay focused on 1-0. Can we just do that? Go ahead now with your question since I framed it. So if you get off 1-0, I'm going to cut you off.
No. You also have a chance to stay perfect at home against
Yeah.
Hawai'i. What kind of statement does that make?
Well, I think a lot of it is a statement with our fans. I want to say thanks. And our home game atmosphere is off the hook, and our student section is great. I know we're late in the year, and so there's going to maybe be some other plans by some people, but it's been great to play at home. Our players enjoy it. It's a phenomenal home game atmosphere, and our players feed off that energy. And so, you've got the glass is either half empty or half full. I'm most of the time a half empty glass guy, and I'm choosing to say, hey, it's half full when you have a chance to play at home.
I know you can't talk a lot about it, but
Then let's not.
Are you happy with where recruiting's at right now?
Yeah, I am. I think we've worked really hard. Gordy's done a great job leading that department. There's a guy that we offered in state that we scour the state, and so we're in hopes that we're going to get a positive response there. That's always important to us and heartwarming to me. But yeah, we've been out, and what you're seeing, Cody, is what are schools trying to do? Are they trying to revamp their roster with transfers? Are they going to stay developmental? Or are they going to go with a hybrid model? We're still choosing to build our program through a developmental model and supplement, and so that means having, I think we're at 14 commitments right now. I don't know if that's what's out there, but that's kind of where I've got a number in my head, which I think is a good place right now. I think it's about what we're going to have a couple visits this weekend again, and I think usually we garner some commitments off that, so we're in a good place.
Craig, it's a small sample size, but clearly Evan can throw seeds into tight windows. Would you like to get him more action down the stretch here? Or
Yeah.
is he clearly the front runner right now for 24? Based on what he's
Who
done?
do we play this week, Cody?
Okay.
I can't control the questions. I can control the answer. I could be like Harbaugh.
Are you
saying,
impressed with how he's played?
yeah, I am. You know what? And we watch everything in practice. Andrew is more competent with all the things that are entailed, but the things that you see with Evan, beyond the number that he's wearing, the future looks really, really bright. I mean, he's settling down. Before he could throw it a country mile, but his footwork was bad. His read progression, that's all starting to come, and so the game's starting to slow down, and the moments aren't too big for him to, by and large. And so, I know this as the University of Texas coaches were talking to Oscar afterwards saying, where'd you get this guy from? And I thought, he came in, he did some things well. I thought particularly, when Andrew's helmet came off, he threw a strike. He can do that. Yeah, he's got an arm that, I've seen good arms. And I'm not saying it's at that level, but it's not far off. It's not far off.
You mentioned his future's bright. I assume you want to be a part of that?
Next week. Yeah. But no, it's been great to see, because, he was an unknown. One of the NFL's guys were in there and looking, going, well, I think we got 6 passes on him it wasn't like we were reaching a little bit. And the guy said, I wouldn't tell people that. I'd tell them you did all this research and you just found this guy. No, I think we got a little bit fortunate there. But I think the biggest thing is he's learning. Tim's done a really good job with him, teaching him how to play quarterback. And the system that we have, it's a system that it's beyond the physical abilities. It's the shoulders up. They're doing everything from run checks to protection checks to full field progression. And that's why that tree that they talk about, now a couple of the other guys have not, but that tree between NDSU and Wyoming, that's why you're seeing a lot of those guys have an opportunity, because you get in that league. I'm rambling here a little bit, but when you get in that league, you don't have that body of work with all this repetition, and you've been in some deal where you're going, and if this guy's open, throw it. If not, take off and run. You get in that league now, they're asking them to do what we're doing, and Evan is learning how to do that. So, I think the future looks really bright for him. And matter of fact, Andrew came over one day and said, hey, Coach, he just better be backing it on down there. He's starting to really, he can put the ball places that no one else has since we had Josh.
Do you expect any freshmen that haven't played this year to maybe see some time in these next couple of weeks? We've heard a lot about the defensive line.
Yeah, well, some of it comes down to, Cody, with where we're at. Ian Bell's played a little bit. Keani Parks has played on special teams. You're right, the freshman guys, I kind of talked to Oscar that they've wreaked havoc. Within the interior guys, we've got quite a bit of depth right now. So that may present itself, but I think the biggest thing is we're trying to do whatever we can to win the next game.
Is it just a coincidence that really your career is best known for being at 2 schools and not looking to jump to someplace else all the time?
I think, first of all, I want to say thanks to those schools that had faith in me, because I think a lot of times when I say faith in me, I think some schools are into this new flavor of the month, and they're not going to give a coach an opportunity. If you remember, the first 2 years that we were here were rough. They were rough, and we worked through that. And there was a time at NDSU, people didn't see there was a 3 and 8 year in there, and so you're going to have some bumps like that. But I want to say, athletic directors now are not so much like Tom Berman, and so whether they're listening to outside whatever things like this, I think Tom looks at the comprehensive package and says, okay, where are we at as a program? What are we doing? And then also, too, Tracy, I made a commitment. I made a commitment that I was not going to, I wasn't, whenever I retire, is going to be here. I made that commitment to Josh Allen. I made that commitment to our governors. Now, if you want to make a change, that's your prerogative, but I'm not going to be going. And not to say that I had opportunities, but there was that window. I knew that window was there. When we were in the championship game, there was windows, and there were even some opportunities during those bad years. And I felt really comfortable being here. I'm a Wyoming Cowboy, and this is where I want to be. And so I think I'm unique. There's some of my colleagues that are out there probably see the same world the way I do. Coach Ferens is one of them. But typically what goes on is you're chasing after the next job, and I lived that as an assistant coach, and I saw it crash and burn. And, you know, if you're in a good place, yeah, you can maybe triple your salary, but you're going to be really unhappy and be at a place that you like, that fits, and you can feel like you have an opportunity to make an impact on other people. So that's my choice.
In your opinion, what do you think is the biggest X factor to beat Hawaii?
We got to get some explosive plays on offense, particularly out of the running game. And it's got to come from our tailback position. Andrew made some explosive plays in the running game. I mean, and he can do that. But we got to get some explosive plays out of that tailback position. You know, we need to be able to stay on the field on third down. That's got to be, you know, and we weren't able to do that in the second half. Offensively, we need to do that. We need to get better in special teams. You know, I didn't think we punted the ball particularly well, and we're off, you know, with scoring right now. And then defensively, we have got to play for contested balls because the ball's going to be up in the air. And we can do that a lot easier if it's 3rd down and 10 as opposed to 3rd down and 3. So that means shutting down their running game. So that's what's going to, and we got to play up to our potential. And, you know, I think sometimes people that are on the outside that really don't understand this arena, the margins for playing really well and average are about like that, and to peak is unbelievably challenging. And I think sometimes, well, I appreciate our fans, but I don't know if they've recognized that that's challenging to do, to get a team to peak, to play like we played the first half against Fresno. That's hard, and it's hard to replicate that, but we have to do that this week.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Cole Goodbow and what a warrior he's been
Yeah.
throughout his career? And
He's
is he a
certainly,
little
he's a 6-year guy, and he's been banged up. I mean, he's gone through a lot, and it's, you know, he's gotten things out. It's not like he's, if you see him, I mean, he looks like Grandpa Moses when he's warming up. It takes him a while, but I appreciate his efforts and what he's meant to our team. And
is he a little more beat up than even we could imagine?
yes, yeah, yes. It's a hard position, and he's taken a lot of hits, and he's gotten it out. But he is not. It's not like feels all warm and fuzzy and ready to run a 40-yard dash. I mean, he's beat up.